Welcome back, guys, to our segment. I am your instructor, CPA Ringo Frederick. In our previous segment, we handled and we studied how to create our bank account and record transaction in regard to our opening balances. Today's segment, I want us to handle aspect of creating fixed assets. Creating fixed assets. How do you go about it? Based on our case study that you're using here, these are what you're using. I believe that you've been able to download this document just on our first or second video. You should be able to have downloaded the document here. In note number 2, we have on 15th January, the company purchased the following items, that is motor vehicles, computers, furniture, and fittings. And in this case, I'm given the mode of payment. Number 1, motor vehicle purchased on credit from General Motors. The other item, computers, we purchased from Kai's Computers. Check from KCB. Check from Equity, we purchased our furniture and fittings. So first thing first, I need us to understand how are we going to record. This is recording what? Recording fixed assets on QuickBooks system. That is part that I want us to study. So this is what you're supposed to do. You just make sure that you access your chart of accounts. So accessing a chart of accounts, how do you go about it? I repeat the procedure again. You can come to the accountant or you can come to the company. So if you are an accountant, you'll find that I'm having chart of accounts. On clicking chart of accounts, of course, it will take us here. So identify if at all the asset that you want is already on the opening chart of accounts or is not there. So in our case, you can see you're having furniture and equipment. We're having accumulated utilization of the same. So ideally, we don't have the component. So what we need to do is to create these aspects or accounts. So I'll come to account, chart of accounts, the same procedure. You come to your account, new. What you want to create now, I'd explain about this in our previous video. All you want to do is to create our fixed assets, which is a major purchase. So what you need to do is just to click your fixed assets. You do continue. After that, what do you want to create? Our focus is on this segment here. I'm having motor vehicles. So what to do, I'll just be having motor vehicle. Opening balance. First of all, you don't have an opening balance. This is what? Business asset. Or you can have any inquiry if you can have any description of your choice at that point. So I'm going to do what? Save and new. What else do you have to input? Computers. Computers. These are business assets. Save and new. What else did we have? We also had furniture and fittings, right? So I'm having furniture. And fittings, business assets. Save and new. The next item to understand is that these assets, of course, will have a component of depreciation, right? So it is important that we record the accumulated depreciation of these assets. So what we are going to do, we are going to have accumulated depreciation, sub account, we are having motor vehicle, because each asset will be having its accumulated depreciation, right? So in that case, after that, I'll just do save and new. Again, accumulated depreciation, sub account of, we can now have computers, save a new, accumulated depreciation of sub account, furniture and fittings. Save a new. So what we've done, if at all you can cancel this, you realize that we have created our fixed assets. I'm having furniture and fittings with this accumulated depreciation. I'm having motor vehicles with this accumulated depreciation. And of course, we're having our computers with this accumulated depreciation. So on that case, we have created our fixed assets. We have created our fixed assets. That is important to note, creating of our fixed asset. The next segment on the same will be to record the purchase of fixed assets. Record the purchase of fixed assets. So remember, on recording of this purchase of fixed assets, we can either have them on credit or in cash, right? So what will be the next step? Identify how we purchased these assets. It is only motor vehicles which we purchased on credit from General Motors. We purchased these from credit from General Motors. So before I record this purchase, I want us to create, of course, our supplier, will be our creditor. Of course, we'll be doing that as we proceed, but for this point, for the purpose of recording this transaction, let us have that. How will you create your supplier? You have so many options. You can come to home. See, we're having all these items of vendors. You can come to vendor creation, or you can come to vendors directly on our tab, vendor center. All this will lead us to creation of our vendor. So at this point, we didn't have our supplier in our accounts. We want to create them for the first time. All I need to do is to click this drop down here. I need to create a new vendor. The name of our new vendor, in this case, you're having General Motors. And for General Motors, opening balance we didn't have. We have him as at the beginning of the period. We can decide to have as at the beginning of the period. The company name would be the same as General Motors. General Motors Limited. General Motors Limited. We're having General Motors Limited as well. Phone number of General Motors, of course, maybe this is their phone number. We'll just take any number. Work phone number, it can be the same. See, if at all you're having all these details, you need to fill all these details, including their website plus email. If at all you're having all these details, then you'll be required to fill all the details. So I'll do, okay, I have created one supplier of fixed asset who was what? Who? General Motors. So the next step would be for us to record this transaction, right? For us to record now this transaction. Because they are fixed assets, there are so many ways that we can do it. There are so many ways that we can do that, but the best way I'll advise is for us, in this case, following the procedure of this. And by doing that, all you need to do is, because it is not a item that will be selling every now and then, you'll find that you can't go with the normal case of creating purchase order, right? On this case, because you're purchasing, of course, on credit, what we can do is to create that creditor. So the easiest way that you can go about it, just come to, of course, your company, we insert general journal entry, where on this case, when are we purchasing this? These transactions are happening on 15th January. So we are going to input my account to debit is where this asset is coming. And in this case, we had motor vehicle. Motor vehicle cost, we have it at that point. How much are we talking about? 1.5. Where are we purchasing this? You're purchasing this from General Motors. You're purchasing this from General Motors. General Motors, of course, is our supplier. If at all, you can check all these items here. You'll find that we will be having this. So in that case, we just go to here, we type, remember General Motors is an accounts payable, right? So you can just type accounts payable, which you're having accounts payable at that point, which is a liability. And at this point, you should not forget to input who? General Motors being our supplier. On memo, we can have purchase. On memo, we can have a purchase of motor vehicle on credit. Purchase of motor vehicle on credit. When was this transaction being done? It was being conducted on 15th January. So I'll just come and change the date to be 15th January. So after I have done that bit, all you can do is to save a new. On the same date, there are other items that you're purchasing, which were computers and furniture. On this case, you're purchasing them on cash. So I'll be having a supplier here known as Kites Computers, right? So therefore, what we need to do is to create this supplier. As well, you can also create two Victoria Furnitures. So the same procedure of creating your supplier, you've said you can come to vendors, vendor center. Of course, we are having suppliers. So new vendor as at the beginning of the period, Kites Computers. We're having Kites Computers. You fill in all these details if you have. If you have all these details, you just need to fill all the details. So that I'll just do what? Okay. We'll also create another supplier who is Victoria Furnitures. We'll do Victoria Furnitures. So Victoria Furnitures, the same procedure will apply, creating Victoria Furnitures as at the beginning of the period. So in this case, I'll be having that. I need to create Victoria Furnitures. Then we just do what? Okay. So you'll find that we've created these suppliers. We've created our suppliers here. And as we can see, you'll find that General Motors, you're having a balance, which we did a transaction on that day. And that's why you can see we're having a balance appearing there for General Motors. So after that, we proceed to our chart of accounts, where we'll be having our general journals, right? Where on this case, we can input now both of them, like a purchase of computers. Debit value is how much? A debit value in this case, you can see we had a value of purchase of computers 500,000. We paid this by computers we paid from KCB. So where is my cash coming from? My cash is coming from KCB. So purchase of computers here from Kites Computers. Because it is a receipt, so we can basically no need of us having it at that point. You can just leave it the way it is, right? Because the vendor or the supplier, we can indicate, yes, it was who? Kai's Computers, but remember, we've just paid on cash, so no need of that. So at that point, all I'll need to do is to create another item here, which at this point, we had, of course, this in the another asset here, which was furniture and fittings. So we debit furniture and fittings, debit furniture and fittings, a value which amounted to 500,000. We credit Equity Bank the same value of 500,000. Purchase of furnitures from Victoria Furnitures. See? So you just follow that procedure. So the next item to do here, all you can do is to save and close. The moment I've saved and closed, of course, that period will just indicate. You'll find that now, if we can check our chart of accounts, you realize that we are making progress. So now in our company, what we have added is I'm having the accounts payable, what you are owing, furniture and fittings, I'm having the 500,000, and for of course motor vehicles, I'm having 1.5. In this case, you'll also realize that our value of bank, they have what? They have reduced. So that is how to record the aspect of fixed assets. All the fixed assets, you'll be recording them on the same case. Now, the next step that I want us to handle is already we know what you are going to sell. So the next segment, I want us to learn how to add items in our QuickBook system. To that point, guys, thank you so much. See you in our next segment. Bye-bye.